Over 1,300 occupiers and dozens of artillery systems were destroyed by the armed forces of Ukraine in one day. Over the past day, on October 7, the aggressor state lost 1,340 soldiers, 47 artillery systems and 30 anti-aircraft missiles in the war in Ukraine. This was announced by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. The total combat losses of the Russians from 24.02.22 to 08.10.24 approximately amounted to: personnel, about 662,970, plus 1,340 people. Tanks 8,940, plus 7 units. Armored combat vehicles 17,740, plus 30 units. Artillery systems 19,203, plus 47 units. RSZV 1223 units. Air defense equipment 973, plus 1 units. Aircraft 368 units. Helicopters 328 units. UAVs of the operational tactical level 16,686, plus 43 units. Cruise missiles 2,618, plus 3 units. Ships boats 28 units. Submarines 1 unit. Automotive equipment and tank trucks 26,185, plus 83 units. Special equipment 3,373, plus 9 units. The data is being verified. We will remind that during the day, October 6, the defense forces of Ukraine eliminated 1,160 Russian invaders. The day before, on October 5, Ukrainian soldiers also sent more than 1,000 Russian occupiers to the Kobzon concert. We also reported that the Ukrainian military shot down a Russian Su-25 military aircraft near Kostiantynivka in Donetsk region.
Satellite images of the fire at the oil depot in Feodosia have appeared. Satellite images of the fire that continues after the SSU hit an oil depot in occupied Feodosia have appeared online. This is reported by Radio Liberty. Shami, Radio Liberty publishes satellite images of Planet Labs for October 8. They show clouds of smoke on the territory of the oil depot. As of 11:44 Kyiv time, the large-scale fire at the oil depot was still ongoing. According to the RFE-RL Project Krim, really, due to a fire at an oil depot in occupied Feodosia, the evacuation zone has been expanded. Now it concerns residents of the northern micro-district. Attention residents of the North District. Evacuation measures and delivery to collection and evacuation points are being carried out. After registration, places will be provided in stationary points of temporary accommodation, the message reads. According to the actual local authorities, more than 1,000 people living in the surrounding areas are already in temporary accommodation. We will remind that the fire at the Sea Oil Terminal in Feodosia, the largest in Crimea in terms of the volume of transshipment of oil products, has been going on for the second day after the strikes of Ukraine. More than 1,000 people had to be evacuated. On the night of October 7, a large-scale fire occurred at an oil depot in the Feodosia region of the temporarily occupied Crimea. This was preceded by a drone attack. As a result of the attack of the armed forces on the oil depot in Feodosia, 2 fuel tanks there were destroyed, 2 more caught fire. On the evening of October 7, explosions rang out in the temporarily occupied Feodosia for the second time in a day, and a fire started. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the attack on a marine oil terminal in the temporarily occupied Crimea. SBU hit every 8th tank destroyed on the front. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, SBU officers have hit 1,226 Russian tanks, which is actually every 8th tank. The spokesman of the Security Service of Ukraine, Artem Dektyarenko, told about this on TV. In total, since the beginning of the war, SBU employees have hit 1,226 Russian tanks. And this is the figure for the beginning of this week. It is constantly increasing. And this means that in fact every 8th tank that Ukraine destroyed in the war with the Russian Federation was destroyed directly by the Security Service of Ukraine, said Dektyarenko. In addition, according to him, the security service neutralized thousands of other enemy weapons, artillery systems, anti-aircraft defense, radio-electronic warfare, and others. Commenting on the downing of a Russian helicopter over the Kursk region with the help of an FPV drone, Dektyarenko noted that 2 such cases have already been recorded. We will remind that the defense forces destroyed the enemy's automated military anti-aircraft missile complex, OSA-AKM. Its value is about $10 million. In the past day, October 7, the aggressor state lost 1,340 soldiers, 47 artillery systems and 30 BBM in the war in Ukraine. Earlier in the day, on October 6, the defense forces of Ukraine eliminated 1,160 Russian invaders. Note that on October 5, Ukrainian soldiers also sent more than 1,000 Russian occupiers to the Kobzon concert. An unknown target flew to Ukraine from Belarus this morning. On the morning of October 8, an unidentified target flew to Ukraine from the territory of Belarus. Perhaps it was a reconnaissance drone. This was reported on the Telegram channel, Belarusian Gyan. The object was moving from the Politsky Reserve in Belarus in the direction of Pripyat at around 8:54. The crossing of the airspace took place already at 9 o'clock. After that, the target moved in the direction of the southeast, flew over Chernobyl, Oster, Kalita and took a course to the Yagatin region, and then to the Cherkasy region. We will remind you that on the night of October 8, the Russian invaders attacked Odessa with drones for 4 hours. On the night of October 8, the occupiers struck Odessa with 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles from the occupied Crimea, and also attacked Ukraine with 19 strike UAVs from the Russian city of Primorsko-Akhtarsk. 18 drones were destroyed. During the day, the Russians attacked 16 settlements in the Kherson region. 24 people, including 4 children, were wounded by enemy shelling. 1 person died. As of this morning, 7 people are known to have been wounded in Zaporizhia as a result of Russian shelling. Yesterday, 3 people were injured in the attack. London introduced sanctions against the Russian military for the use of chemical weapons. Great Britain has imposed sanctions against Russia's radiological, chemical and biological defense forces and their head, Igor Kryilov. In particular, for the use of chemical weapons in Ukraine. This was reported by the press service of the British government. The terrorist forces of the Russian Federation have admitted to using chlorpikrin, a toxic substance first used in the First World War. This violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention is a serious violation of international law. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy said that London will not stand idly by in the face of such violations and will continue to use sanctions against the regime of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. According to him, Russia continues to use inhumane methods, and London will not allow it to avoid responsibility. Defense Minister John Healey emphasized that Great Britain intends to punish violations of international law and support Ukraine as long as necessary. Britain also imposed sanctions on 2 Russian laboratories linked to chemical weapons development and pledged to continue military and financial support for Ukraine, including £3 billion in annual aid. We will remind you that today, October 8, the Council of the European Union approved a new mechanism of sanctions against the Russian Federation in response to its hybrid actions against European countries. Earlier, Josep Borrell said that continuing to help Ukraine is an urgent necessity, otherwise the aggressive Kremlin regime will soon celebrate victory. We also wrote that the European Union plans to change the algorithm for the purchase of weapons for the armed forces through the European Peace Fund due to permanent vetoes from Hungary. About 12,000 people remain in Pokrovsk, among them children. As of Tuesday, October 8, 12,000 people remain in Pokrovsk, Donetsk region. Among them are 82 children. This was announced by the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, Vadim Filishkin, on the air of the telethon Edini Noviny. There are now 12,000 people and 82 children left in Pokrovsk. There were 46,000 people and 3.5 thousand children. That is, more than 30,000 people left Pokrovsk alone, he said. Before the start of the full-scale invasion, there were almost 2 million people in Donetsk region, and now 340,000, he added. According to the head of OVA, more than 1,400 people remain in Toretsk, and they leave very slowly. About 17,800 people and 368 children are currently staying in Kostiantinivka, Filishkin said. A strict curfew was imposed in the city from 3 p.m. to 11 a.m. due to the very difficult situation in the city, he added. Earlier, Serhiy Dobryak, the head of the Pokrovsk City Military Administration, reported on the difficult situation in the city. The Russian army is only 7 kilometers from the outskirts, and 80% of critical infrastructure has already been damaged. Despite this, 13,000 people remain in Pokrovsk, including 94 children. The intelligence center of the Estonian Defense Forces admits that Ukrainian forces may be forced to leave Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region by the end of the year. Shelling of Kharkiv. The number of wounded has increased. As a result of a Russian missile strike on Kharkiv in the morning of October 8, 21 people were injured, including a teenager. This was announced by the head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, Oleg Sinagubov, and the mayor of Kharkiv, Igor Terekov, in their Telegram channels. Details of the incident. The blow was inflicted on the industrial district of Kharkiv. The hit occurred on civilian production. Initially, 6 victims were recorded, and at least 2 people remained under the rubble. A large-scale fire broke out on the spot. The number of wounded increased initially to 11, including a 16-year-old child. 3 people are in serious condition. Later it became known about 16 victims. As of 12:40 p.m., the number of injured has increased to 21 people, 17 of whom are hospitalized, including a 16-year-old teenager. Earlier we wrote that on October 7, at night, Russian invaders shelled Kharkiv Oblast. As a result of the attack, the railway track was damaged. Electric trains will temporarily stop running along the route Kharkiv, Dergachi, Slatin, Nova Kazaka. We will also remind you that on October 4, in the evening, the orcs attacked Kharkiv with guided aerial bombs, hitting one of the city's central districts. In the Kherson region, the occupiers hit a store with artillery. There are casualties. Today, October 8, the Russian occupiers hit a store in Antonivka, Kherson region, with an artillery shell. There are casualties as a result of the enemy attack. This is reported by Kherson OVA. According to preliminary information, several people were injured as a result of the attack, in particular, a 48-year-old man who received an explosive injury and leg amputation. He is in the hospital. In addition, the store building suffered serious damage due to an enemy artillery strike. On the night of October 8, the Russian occupiers attacked Odeshchia with attack drones for 4 hours. On the night of October 8, the occupiers struck Odessa with 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles from the occupied Crimea, and also attacked Ukraine with 19 strike UAVs from the Russian city of Primorsko-Akhtarsk. 18 drones were destroyed. During the day, the Russians attacked 16 settlements in the Kherson region. 24 people, including 4 children, were wounded by enemy shelling. 1 person died. As of this morning, 7 people are known to have been wounded in Zaporizhia as a result of Russian shelling. Yesterday, 3 people were injured in the attack. The occupiers attacked Odessa with drones for 4 hours. There is damage. On the night of October 8, the Russian occupiers attacked Odeshchia with attack drones for 4 hours. Anti-aircraft defense forces destroyed most of the martyrs, Oleg Kuiper, the head of the Odessa region, said. In Chornomorsk, as a result of the attack, apartments on the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors caught fire. Firefighters promptly extinguished the fire with an area of 100 meters too. In addition, in the Odessa district, the ceiling and walls of the administrative and industrial building were damaged and subsequently caught fire. The fire was extinguished on an area of 50 meters too. Another drone fell in an open area without detonation. There were no casualties or injuries. On the night of October 8, the occupiers struck Odessa with 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles from the occupied Crimea, and also attacked Ukraine with 19 strike UAVs from the Russian city of Primorsko-Akhtarsk. 18 drones were destroyed. During the day, the Russians attacked 16 settlements in the Kherson region. 24 people, including 4 children, were wounded by enemy shelling. 1 person died. As of this morning, 7 people are known to have been wounded in Zaporizhia as a result of Russian shelling. Yesterday, 3 people were injured in the attack. The commander of the 72nd OMBR spoke about the exit from Vuhledar and the overwhelming forces of the enemy. Ukrainian servicemen encountered a tactical encirclement during the exit from Vuhledar. Then the enemy's forces prevailed 9 times. The new commander of the 72nd Separate Mechanized Brigade, named after the Black Zaporozhets, Alexander Okremenko, said this, Glavcom reports. According to him, the situation in the Vuhledar area was extremely tense after September 27, especially on the flanks, which made holding the city impossible. I want to note that I did not lead the unit in the easiest time. After September 27, the situation in which the 72nd performed combat tasks was very tense, especially on the flanks, which did not allow to keep Vuhledar in the future. In fact, it was already a tactical encirclement. it was extremely difficult to evacuate and replenish ammunition, said Brigadier General. Okremenko noted that the reserves, which could arrive earlier, have already come under the influence of fire, in particular, large-caliber weapons. Kombrig emphasized that holding Vuhledar lost its strategic importance by the end of September due to changes in the south of Donbass. The defense forces were opposed by several Russian units, including the 36th and 39th Motorized Rifle Brigades, the 57th Brigade and the 91st Rifle Regiment. Okremenko noted that the enemy was significantly superior in equipment, in particular in tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery and personnel. Any theoretical calculations indicate that with a ratio of forces and means of 1:3, the enemy will gain an advantage. Here, under Vuhledar, it was 1:9. You can objectively understand what were the chances of holding this settlement and the defense strip in the brigade's area of responsibility, he added. We will remind, on October 2, Ukrainian units were withdrawn from Vuhledar. The Ukrainian military withdrew in a controlled manner from Vuhledar in Donetsk region, and a Russian airstrike killed a couple in Sumy Oblast. Around 4:20 a.m., the occupiers dropped, according to preliminary data, guided aerial bombs on the civil infrastructure of the Esman community of Shostkinsky district in Sumy Oblast. The couple died. The Sumy Regional Prosecutor's Office reported this on its Telegram channel. As a result of an enemy attack, a 38-year-old man and his 35-year-old wife died in their own house. Under the procedural leadership of the Sumy Regional Prosecutor's Office, a pre-trial investigation is being conducted on the fact of violation of the laws and customs of war, combined with intentional murder Part 2 of Article 438 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. Prosecutors, in cooperation with other law enforcement officers, document the consequences of the shelling. We will remind you that on the night of October 8, the Russian invaders attacked Odessa with drones for 4 hours. On the night of October 8, the occupiers struck Odessa with 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles from the occupied Crimea, and also attacked Ukraine with 19 strike UAVs from the Russian city of Primorsko-Akhtarsk. 18 drones were destroyed. During the day, the Russians attacked 16 settlements in the Kherson region. 24 people, including 4 children, were wounded by enemy shelling. 1 person died. As of this morning, 7 people are known to have been wounded in Zaporizhia as a result of Russian shelling. Yesterday, 3 people were injured in the attack. In September, the occupiers used prohibited chemical weapons 250 times. Since February 2023, 4,228 uses of ammunition equipped with dangerous chemical substances by the enemy have been recorded. In September alone, the occupiers used prohibited chemical weapons in the war with Ukraine 250 times. This was reported by the General Staff. Next to conventional means of fire damage, the enemy uses munitions equipped with dangerous chemical substances, such as K-51 and RGVO, which are means of fighting riots and are prohibited for use as means of warfare. There is also a significant share of ammunition containing dangerous chemical compounds of an unknown type, the message reads. In September 2024, 250 such cases were recorded by the Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Intelligence Units of the Support Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Since February 2023, the use of dangerous chemicals by Russians has become systemic. On September 24 of this year, 4,228 uses of ammunition equipped with dangerous chemical substances by the enemy were recorded. Thus, the Russian Federation grossly violates the rules of warfare, ignores the norms and obligations of the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Production, Stockpiling and Use of Chemical Weapons and on their destruction, the General Staff added. In August, the Russian Federation used prohibited ammunition equipped with chemical substances almost 500 times. We will remind you that the Rashists themselves have been actively using chemical weapons at the front for a long time. In the zone of the Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Tavria, Russian troops drop ammunition with poisonous substances from copters every day. We previously wrote that the U.S. State Department, in justifying new sanctions measures against the Russian Federation, indicated that Russian troops used the banned chemical substance chloropicrin against the armed forces of Ukraine. We will also remind you that Ukraine is exposed to. More than 1,000 people were evacuated due to a fire at the oil terminal in Feodosia. The fire at the Sea Oil Terminal in Feodosia, the largest in Crimea in terms of transshipment of oil products, has been going on for the second day after the strikes by Ukraine. More than 1,000 people had to be evacuated. This was reported by Russia's protege in Feodosia, Ihor Kachenko. He announced that for the safety of people living in the areas of the Black Sea embankment and the Middle Reeds, a temporary evacuation was carried out. Fire suppression works are ongoing, all involved services are in operational communication with the headquarters. I ask residents and guests of the city to remain calm and trust only official information, Kachenko wrote. We will remind you that on the night of October 7, a large-scale fire broke out at an oil depot in the Feodosia region of the temporarily occupied Crimea. This was preceded by a drone attack. As a result of the attack of the armed forces on the oil depot in Feodosia, 2 fuel tanks there were destroyed, 2 more caught fire. On the evening of October 7, explosions rang out in the temporarily occupied Feodosia for the second time in a day, and a fire started. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed the attack on a marine oil terminal in the temporarily occupied Crimea.